The chair hit the floor. The translator's voice cracked mid-sentence as the glass tumbler rolled across the polished table. Imani Okoye didn't think. She moved. Her tray slammed down beside Chairman Kang Jun-seo's untouched drink, and before fear could silence her, she leaned forward and spoke in clear Korean. "He's changing the contract." Silence detonated in the private sky lounge. 4 executives froze. The translator stiffened. Chairman Kang didn't blink. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Seoul's skyline shimmered under midnight rain. Inside, the air turned heavy enough to choke on. The American executive cleared his throat. "I'm sorry?" Imani kept her eyes lowered. She was just the waitress, invisible, replaceable. She had survived 2 years by staying that way. But she had heard it. Clause 14. Profit share extension from 18 months to 5 years. Operational oversight rewritten. Liability removed. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Chairman Kang's voice was calm. Too calm. "Repeat the clause." The translator swallowed. "Shared operational control for 5 years as agreed." Imani's heart pounded against her ribs. No, that was not what they agreed on. She spoke again, quieter this time, but steady. "The English draft states 18 months, with automatic reversion rights." The Americans exchanged confused glances. "That's correct," one of them said slowly. 18 months. The translator's face drained of color. Chairman Kang slowly turned his head toward Imani. It wasn't anger in his eyes. It was calculation. "How does a server know this?" he asked softly. Imani felt the weight of every guard in the room shift their attention toward her. Because she wasn't always a server. Because 2 years ago she had been one of the sharpest compliance lawyers in Chicago. Because a company called Meridian Black had destroyed her career with forged documents and bribed regulators. Because she knew corporate sabotage when she heard it. But she couldn't say all that. Not here. Not yet. "I used to work in international contract review," she said carefully. The translator snapped. "She's lying! She's just trying to cause confusion!" Chairman Kang raised one finger. The translator stopped talking instantly. Jun-seo stood. When he stood, the entire room changed temperature. He wasn't just a businessman. He didn't carry himself like one. There was something else about him. Stillness. Authority that didn't need to announce itself. He stepped toward the translator. "In English," he said. "Read clause 14." The translator hesitated. One of the American executives grabbed the document and read it himself. 18 months with review and reversion. The silence afterward was suffocating. Chairman Kang's voice dropped lower. "You altered my agreement." "It was a misunderstanding," the translator stammered. Jun-seo nodded once. 2 men in black suits stepped forward from the shadows. They didn't argue. They didn't shout. They simply escorted the translator out. The elevator doors closed. No one asked where he was going. The Americans quickly began apologizing. "This was not authorized," one insisted. Chairman Kang didn't respond. He was looking at Imani. "You," he said. Her throat tightened. "Come." Not a request. The Americans were dismissed. The negotiation table cleared. Imani followed him into a private corridor lined with security cameras and silent guards. She had just exposed a man in front of one of the most powerful figures in Seoul. She didn't know if she had saved herself or destroyed herself. They entered a private office overlooking the Han River. Jun-seo removed his suit jacket slowly. "You risked something," he said. Imani stood straight. "He was falsifying terms." "That is not what I meant." She met his gaze. His eyes were sharp, assessing, not cruel, not kind. "You interfered in a negotiation worth billions." "I know." "Why?" The question hung between them. Because she was tired of watching powerful corporations ruin lives. Because her father died believing she had failed. Because Meridian Black made her invisible. Because she refused to stay invisible tonight. She exhaled slowly. "Because I've seen this tactic before." His expression shifted slightly. "Explain." I worked for a regulatory defense firm in the United States. Meridian Black orchestrated fraudulent compliance audits. They twisted contract clauses to seize infrastructure control. When my father exposed financial irregularities connected to them, they framed me for falsifying evidence. Her voice tightened despite her effort to stay composed. I lost my license, my reputation, everything. Junso listened without interruption. You fled here. Yes. And you believe tonight's deception connects to this Meridian Black? I know it does. He stepped closer. Meridian Black has attempted to infiltrate my shipping corridors for 7 months. Her pulse skipped. You are certain? She asked. He nodded once. They send consultants, translators, intermediaries. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't stepped into a negotiation. She had stepped into an ongoing war. Junso studied her. You were very precise. I don't make accusations lightly. He walked past her and pressed a button on his desk. A man entered silently. Investigate her, Junso said. Imani's chest tightened. I'm telling the truth. If you are, Junso replied calmly, you become useful. I'm not looking to be useful to anyone. His lips curved faintly. That is unfortunate. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. Unknown number. She hesitated. Answer it, he said. She did. A low voice spoke calmly. You should have kept serving drinks. Her blood ran cold. The call ended. Junso's gaze hardened. You were followed, he said. It wasn't a question. Imani felt the room closing in. Meridian Black knew she spoke. They were watching. Junseo turned toward one of the security monitors. Lock down the perimeter, he ordered in Korean. Then he looked back at her. You will not return to your apartment tonight. Her breath caught. I don't need protection. That was not an offer. For the first time since she walked into the negotiation room, fear hit her fully. Not fear of him, fear of what she had just exposed. Junseo stepped closer again. You disrupted their strategy. That makes you a liability. To them, she said quietly, and potentially to me. The tension between them sharpened. I won't betray you, she said. His eyes held hers for a long moment. Trust is not declared, he replied. It is tested. Outside, thunder cracked over the city. Imani realized something in that moment. She had just aligned herself with a man whose name people whispered in Seoul's underground circles. A man who controlled more than ports. A man whose enemies disappeared quietly. And Meridian Black had just declared her visible. Junseo picked up his phone. Prepare a secure suite, he instructed. He ended the call. You are under my protection until I decide otherwise. Imani stiffened. I didn't ask for protection. No, he agreed. You forced it. A faint flicker of something passed between them. Not softness, not yet, but awareness. This was no longer about a contract, this was about survival, and neither of them were the type to lose quietly. Imani didn't argue when the security team escorted her through a private hallway. Arguing would have been pointless. Chairman Kang Junseo did not repeat himself. The secure suite was 3 floors below his office, hidden behind biometric doors and silent guards who did not ask questions. The moment the door closed behind her, the weight of what she had done crashed into her. She had exposed Meridian Black in front of Kang Junseo, and Meridian had already called her. She stood still in the center of the suite, arms wrapped around herself. A knock came minutes later, not loud, not hesitant, measured. Junseo entered without waiting for permission. He had removed his tie. His sleeves were rolled slightly now, but his presence still dominated the room. You're shaking, he observed. I'm not. You are. Imani lifted her chin. You said I was under protection. That implies threat. He stepped further inside. They will attempt to intimidate you first. And then? His gaze didn't waver. Escalate. Her pulse jumped. Because I corrected a translation? No. His voice lowered. Because you exposed an operation. Silence filled the space between them. She exhaled slowly. How deep does this go? Deep enough that Meridian Black does not operate alone in Seoul. She swallowed. So tonight wasn't just a business dinner? No. There it was. Confirmation. The rumors about Kang Jun-seo were not exaggerated. He wasn't just negotiating port contracts. He was defending territory. She studied him more carefully now. You knew he was dangerous, she said quietly. Julian? A faint smirk touched his mouth. Yes. And you let him sit at your table? Of course. Her brows furrowed. Why? Because when a snake enters your garden, you don't panic. His eyes held hers. You wait to see who it reports to. A chill moved through her. You were using him. Yes. And I interrupted. Yes. The tension thickened. She felt a flicker of guilt. You're angry. No. She blinked. You miscalculated my tolerance, he corrected. There's a difference. Before she could respond, there was another knock. The man from earlier entered quietly and handed Jun-seo a slim tablet. Jun-seo read it without expression. Then he looked at her. Your story checks out. Her breath stalled. Your law license revocation was based on falsified email trails, financial irregularities traced to shell accounts connected to Meridian subsidiaries. Her knees nearly gave out. They buried it well, she whispered. They did. And my father? Jun-seo's voice softened slightly. He was correct. The infrastructure bids were manipulated. Imani's throat tightened. For 2 years, she had lived under the weight of doubt, wondering if maybe she missed something. Maybe she had been careless. Now she had confirmation. She wasn't incompetent. She was targeted. Her eyes glistened before she could stop herself. Jun-seo noticed. He didn't step closer. He didn't touch her. But something in his posture shifted. You don't cry easily, he said. I don't. Good. The word wasn't cruel. It was approving. She wiped her face quickly. What happens now? Now they attempt damage control. And me? You become leverage. Her jaw tightened. I won't be bait. You already are. Anger flared in her chest. I saved your deal. You exposed their strategy, he corrected calmly. That increases your value. She stepped closer to him without realizing it. I didn't do it to be valuable. His gaze dropped briefly to the space between them, noticing the proximity. Why did you do it? He asked again. She held his eyes this time. Because I'm tired of watching powerful men rewrite truth. Silence. His voice lowered. Careful. With what? With assuming I am different. The statement hit harder than she expected. You're not Meridian, she said quietly. No. His expression hardened slightly. I am not. There was something unspoken there, something darker. A vibration buzzed on the tablet in his hand. He glanced down. They're moving already, he murmured. Her stomach twisted. What does that mean? They've accessed your old apartment building's security feed. Ice spread through her veins. They know where I live. Yes. And? They will look for something to use. Her heart raced. My laptop! Already retrieved. She stared at him. You went into my apartment. My men did. She inhaled sharply. You had no right. You forfeited privacy the moment you whispered at my table. The words were cold, but not entirely wrong. You're controlling this, she said quietly. Yes. Why? Because I dislike being cornered. And I'm part of that equation. You are the disruption in theirs. Her breath slowed as realization dawned. You're not protecting me out of kindness. No. Then why? He stepped closer again, close enough that she could see the faint scar above his collarbone in clearer detail. Because Meridian Black underestimated you. Her pulse skipped. And that makes you interesting. The air shifted again, not threatening, charged. You don't even know me, she said softly. I know you corrected 3 contractual distortions in under 15 seconds. That's not knowing someone. It tells me how your mind works. She held his gaze. And what does it tell you? That you do not fear consequences when truth is at stake. A beat of silence passed. You should, he added. Her voice dropped. Do you? His expression darkened. I fear very little. There it was again, the undercurrent. This wasn't a corporate chess match. This was something larger. A knock interrupted them. The security chief entered. We intercepted movement near her former building, he said in Korean. 2 men, foreign plates. Junso nodded once. Detain them. Imani's eyes widened. Detain? He didn't look at her. Yes. The man exited. She stepped forward. You can't just... They entered my territory. That doesn't justify... He finally turned to her fully. In my world, he said quietly, territory is justification. The weight of his words settled heavily. She realized she had stepped into a world governed by different rules, and she was standing dangerously close to the man who wrote them. Her voice softened slightly. You're not afraid of Meridian? No. Why? His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Because they mistake legality for power. And you? I understand power without legality. The implication sent a ripple through her. You're not just defending ports, she said carefully. He didn't answer directly. Sleep, he instructed instead. I won't. You will try. She folded her arms. And if I don't? A faint flicker of amusement crossed his face again. Then we will have another conversation. He turned toward the door. Junso. He paused. It was the first time she said his name without title. His shoulders stiffened slightly. Yes? Thank you. A long pause. He didn't smile, but his voice shifted just a fraction. Do not thank me yet. The door closed behind him. Imani stood alone in the quiet suite, heart still racing. She had wanted redemption. Instead, she had stepped into a war. And Kang Jun-so was no ordinary ally. He was something far more dangerous. But for the first time in 2 years, she didn't feel invisible. And that realization unsettled her more than fear. Outside the secure floor, 2 detained men were being escorted into a black vehicle. Meridian Black had made their first move. Jun-so had responded. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The knock on Imani's door came at 3:12 a.m. Not loud, deliberate. She hadn't slept. She hadn't even tried. When she opened the door, Kang Jun-seo stood there again. His expression was harder now. It wasn't random, he said. She stepped aside as he entered. The 2 men? She asked. He nodded once. Meridian liaison officers, not freelancers. Her stomach tightened. So they moved that fast. They were already positioned. A chill ran through her. They expected resistance tonight. Yes. And I ruined their timing. His gaze held hers. You accelerated their exposure. She ran a hand through her hair. This is escalating faster than I thought. It always does. He walked toward the window inside the suite. You're not surprised, she said. I am never surprised. Confident. Prepared. She studied him carefully. You planned for Meridian to strike eventually. Yes. But not through me. A brief silence. No. There it was. She wasn't supposed to be in this war, and yet she was. What did they say? She asked quietly. Nothing useful. Her eyes narrowed. That's not true. He looked at her. You think I would tell you if it were? She stepped closer. I think you don't like being questioned. His jaw flexed slightly. And I think you are pushing boundaries. She didn't step back. Because you're not just defending business contracts. He didn't respond. You're defending influence, she continued. Control. Networks. Careful, he warned softly. With what? With curiosity. She searched his face. You operate outside corporate structure. A pause. Is that what frightens you? He asked. No. Then what does? She didn't answer immediately. Finally, she said, becoming dependent. His expression shifted slightly. On protection? On power. Silence stretched. Dependence is weakness, he said. She held his gaze. Then why are you protecting me? A beat. Because your mind is an asset. And that's all? His eyes flickered briefly. That is sufficient. The air between them thickened. Her phone vibrated again. This time it wasn't an unknown number. It was a blocked message. One image. Her father's old engineering firm building, with a single word beneath it. Unfinished. Her chest tightened. They're reminding me, she whispered. Yes. That they destroyed him. Junseo stepped closer. Fear is leverage. I'm not afraid, she said quickly. You are. She lifted her chin. Then prove it. He didn't hesitate. He reached past her and took the phone from her hand. His fingers brushed hers. It was brief, accidental, but neither of them ignored it. He examined the image. They're testing emotional reaction, he said calmly. They want me unstable. Yes. Are you? She forced her voice steady. No. His eyes remained on her face for a long moment. Good. A knock interrupted them. The security chief entered. Meridian's sole financial coordinator has requested a meeting, he reported. Imani's pulse spiked. They're bold, she murmured. They're desperate, Junseo corrected. When? Tomorrow, public venue. Junseo nodded slowly. They want visibility, Imani said. Yes. So if anything happens, it looks like corporate tension, not criminal retaliation. He looked at her sharply. You think like them. I used to defend against them. Silence. Then he said, You will attend. Her eyes widened. Excuse me? You disrupted their negotiation. You will face their representative. Why? Because they expect you to hide. Her breath slowed. And you want to show them I won't? Yes. That's risky. Everything is. She folded her arms. I'm not your chess piece. No, he agreed calmly. You are a variable. The word unsettled her. What happens at this meeting? I listen. And if they threaten me? They won't. How are you so certain? His voice dropped. Because I will be there. A faint flicker of something passed through her. Not fear, not exactly comfort. Awareness. You don't lose control in public, she said quietly. I do not lose control anywhere. Her eyes held his. That sounds lonely. For the first time, something in his expression shifted. Barely, but enough. Loneliness is irrelevant. Is it? He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped back. Rest, he said again. She didn't argue this time. As he turned to leave, she spoke softly. Junseo. He paused. If I walk into that meeting tomorrow, she said, it won't be because you ordered it. He faced her fully. It will be because you want Meridian to see you standing. Her pulse skipped. He wasn't wrong. I won't run again, she said quietly. His gaze lingered on her for a fraction longer than necessary. Good. The door closed behind him. The next afternoon, the meeting was held in a luxury hotel conference lounge overlooking the river. Public enough to appear legitimate, private enough to control variables. Imani walked in beside Junseo. She wore a sharp charcoal suit instead of the waitress uniform. No apron, no invisibility. The Meridian liaison stood when they entered. Tall, controlled, calculating. Ms. Okoye, he said smoothly. Unexpected. Mr. Han, she replied calmly. Junseo remained silent, observing. Han smiled thinly. You made quite the impression last night. I corrected misinformation. You disrupted a process. Imani didn't flinch. If your process depends on deception, that's not my burden. Han's eyes flickered. Junseo spoke for the first time. You infiltrated my negotiation. Han shrugged lightly. Miscommunication happens. Jun-seo leaned back slightly. No, sabotage happens. The temperature at the table dropped. Han turned his attention back to Imani. You left Chicago quietly, he said. Her stomach tightened. And? You were advised to disappear. I declined. You may reconsider. Jun-seo's gaze sharpened. Han noticed. You've aligned yourself with powerful protection, Han said to her calmly. But protection is temporary. Imani leaned forward slightly. Integrity isn't. Han's smile thinned. You think this is about integrity? Yes. He laughed softly. This is about influence. Jun-seo finally interjected. You mistake influence for control. Han's eyes hardened slightly. And you mistake control for permanence. The tension in the room became almost physical. Imani realized something in that moment. This wasn't just corporate rivalry, this was a collision of empires, and she was standing at the center of it. Han stood. We'll be watching closely, he said calmly. Jun-seo didn't rise. So will I. Han's eyes flickered briefly to Imani again. Be careful who you stand beside. Imani didn't look away. I already am. Han exited. The room remained still for several seconds. Then Jun-seo turned to her. You didn't hesitate. I told you, I won't run. He studied her. You're angrier than you admit. Yes. And that makes you predictable. She met his gaze steadily. Not to you. A faint silence. Then he said quietly, No. For the first time, the tension between them shifted. Not strategy, not survival, something more charged. You didn't have to sit so close, she said softly. Yes, I did. Why? So he understood proximity. Her pulse quickened. You're territorial. Yes. The directness caught her off guard. You don't deny it. I don't waste time denying truth. Their eyes locked. The world around them seemed to fade momentarily. This wasn't just alliance anymore. This was friction, awareness, dangerous awareness. Jun-seo's voice lowered slightly. They will escalate again. I know. And when they do, he said, you stay beside me. Her breath slowed. That sounds like an order. It is. She stepped closer. Then say it differently. A beat. His gaze darkened slightly. Stay. The word wasn't loud, it wasn't forceful, but it carried weight. Imani felt the shift fully now. This was no longer about contracts, or sabotage, or revenge. This was becoming personal, and that frightened her more than Meridian ever could. They didn't make it back to headquarters before the escalation came. Jun-seo's convoy had barely crossed the bridge when the first motorcycle cut between lanes. Imani saw it through the tinted window. Too close, too deliberate. Jun-seo, she said quietly. He had already seen it. The second bike appeared on the other side. Traffic tightened. The car slowed. Imani's pulse began to pound. This isn't random, she whispered. No, he replied calmly. The lead security vehicle accelerated forward, trying to create space. One of the motorcycles swerved sharply, forcing a sudden brake. The car jolted. Imani grabbed the door handle instinctively. A metallic crack split the air. Not a loud explosion, not a gunshot, a tire rupture. The vehicle dipped slightly but maintained control. Jun-seo's expression didn't change. Stay down, he ordered. She didn't argue. Another bike sped past, disappearing ahead. It wasn't a full attack. It was a message. The convoy regained formation and moved off the bridge without further incident. Imani slowly sat back up. They're testing you, she said, her voice tighter than she wanted. They're measuring response, he corrected. And? They won't attempt assassination in traffic. Her eyes widened. You say that like it's reassuring. It is. She exhaled slowly. That wasn't just intimidation. No. They want me scared. Yes. Are you? She looked at him. The truth hovered on her tongue. Yes, she admitted quietly. Junseo studied her face for a long moment. Good. Her brows furrowed. That's not comforting. Fear sharpens. I don't want to be sharpened. You already are. Silence settled between them as the car pulled into the underground entrance of his headquarters. The doors opened. Security moved swiftly, scanning the perimeter. Junseo stepped out first. Then he extended his hand toward her. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't romantic. It was instinctive. She hesitated for half a second. Then she took it. His grip was firm, steady. When they stepped inside, he didn't release her immediately. He didn't seem to notice, or perhaps he did. Inside the private elevator, the tension finally cracked. They won't stop, she said. No. They'll escalate. Yes. And if they can't reach you, they will reach for you. Her stomach tightened. You knew that? Yes. And you still had me attend that meeting? Yes. Anger flared in her chest. You used me! He turned to face her fully. I positioned you. That's not better. It is more accurate. The elevator doors opened. They stepped into his office. She pulled her hand free. You don't get to decide my risk. I already did. Her jaw clenched. You're not invincible. No. Then stop acting like I am. His gaze sharpened. You are not fragile. That doesn't mean I'm expendable. The words hung in the air. For the first time since they met, something real cracked through his composure. You are not expendable, he said quietly. She stilled. Then stop treating me like leverage. A long silence stretched between them. He walked toward the window, hands clasped behind his back. You want honesty, he said without turning around. Yes, you are leverage. Her chest tightened. But you are also an opportunity.
For what?
For balance. She stepped closer. Say it plainly. He turned. Meridian Black built their power on manipulation and fear. You dismantle manipulation instinctively. That's not balance. It is to me. Her breath caught slightly. You're not just fighting for territory. No. You're fighting for control over how power is used. His eyes held hers. Yes. The admission shifted something. You could have crushed Julian publicly, she said quietly. I prefer precision. You didn't humiliate Han. I don't waste energy. You didn't retaliate violently on the bridge. I respond strategically. Silence. You're not what I expected, she said. What did you expect? A man who solves everything with force. His voice lowered slightly. Force is inefficient. Their eyes locked. The tension was no longer just strategic. It was personal, dangerously personal. Her phone buzzed again. Another message, this time a video. She opened it. Her old Chicago office building, empty. A single caption. Careers collapse quietly. Her chest tightened painfully. They won't stop until I break, she whispered. Junseo stepped closer. They won't break you. You don't know that. He reached out and gently closed her phone screen with his hand. I know strength when I see it. Her pulse quickened. Strength gets targeted. Yes. So why align with me? His voice dropped. Because weakness disgusts me. And I'm not weak. No. The space between them shrank. Not because he forced it, not because she retreated, but because neither moved away. You told me to stay, she said softly. Yes. Why? A pause. Then the truth came, quiet but undeniable. Because when you walked into that meeting beside me, you did not hesitate. Her breath hitched slightly. You're not afraid of standing next to power, he continued. I am afraid, she whispered. Not of me. The admission hovered between them. He was right. She wasn't afraid of him. She should have been, but she wasn't. A knock interrupted them. The security chief entered. Meridian's financial coordinator has been detained leaving the city. Junseo nodded. Interrogation? Already underway. Imani's eyes widened slightly. You're escalating now. Yes. Because of the bridge incident? Because they crossed a line. And what line is that? He looked at her. They touched what stands under my protection. Her pulse skipped again. The words weren't casual. They carried weight, finality. The security chief exited. Silence filled the room. You're declaring something, she said quietly. Yes. What? He stepped closer one last time. That you are not to be approached without consequence. Her breath slowed. That sounds territorial again. Yes. And if I decide to leave? A flicker of something dangerous passed through his eyes. Then I will still eliminate the threat. That wasn't my question. A long pause. Then he answered honestly, I would prefer you not leave. The vulnerability in the statement was subtle, but it was there. She felt it. He wasn't asking. He wasn't commanding. He was admitting preference. For a man like him, that was significant. You don't prefer things lightly, she said. No. Her heart beat harder. I won't run, she said quietly. His gaze softened just slightly. Good. Outside the window, Seoul's lights shimmered against the dark river. The war with Meridian had shifted. Lines were drawn openly now. Imani was no longer invisible, and Junseo was no longer just a strategic ally. He was becoming something else, something more dangerous. Her phone vibrated once more, this time a new message from an unknown number. One sentence. This isn't over. She looked up at Junseo. It never was, he said. The camera of this story pulls back. Two figures standing side by side against a city that doesn't yet understand what's unfolding. Meridian will escalate again. Junseo will respond. Imani will have to choose how deep she goes into his world. And if you've made it this far, you already know this isn't just about contracts anymore. It's about power, protection, and something neither of them planned. If you want to see what happens when Meridian makes their next move and Junseo stops playing defensive, make sure you stay with this story, because the next chapter won't be quieter. It will be personal. And if you're enjoying this Afro Korean Mafia romance unfolding, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment telling me whose side you're really on, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because this war has only just begun.
If you're ready to see what happens when this war turns personal, like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe now, because the next chapter changes everything.